What do you think about JK Rowling? Three trans activists stood outside her house in Edinburgh and made sure that everyone knew her address, posting it online. Now, JK Rowling's crime is, of course, that she doesn't like the idea of calling women people who menstruate. She takes issue with the fact that trans women, we're supposed to believe, have never ever been biologically male. She says, well, they were born biologically male, even though they've changed into trans women. She takes issue with that. So that's apparently a crime. And because of her what's called controversial stance, incredibly, she has not been invited to the 20th celebrations of Harry Potter, which last time I looked, she created. What's your thoughts on all of those aspects of poor J.K. Rowling's eventful life right now?
Well, I think the first one, I think intimidating a woman outside of her own home and sort of saying, "Hey, everyone, look, I know where you live," um, is quite disgusting. And it's got to be criminal, right? So I'm hoping the police will be looking into that and treating those three people, to be polite, with real seriousness. Because, as we know, in Scotland, there was recently a woman arrested called Marion Miller, and she was going to face the court for writing some mean things online, one of which was just placing a ribbon somewhere, and the police seemed to accuse her of it looking like a noose. So I hope they treat somebody intimidating someone outside of a woman's home very, very seriously. Um, as far as the spoiled children that are now spoiled adults that have said some really horrible, unsupportive things about J.K. Rowling, which is the three Potter, and there they are, the three Potter stars. I can't quite believe it. I read Emma Watson on Instagram waxing lyrical about the wonderful experience she had on set and how the three of them grew and flourished into adults, although I do disagree with her there. And she did not mention, she mentioned the character, she mentioned the cast and crew, and she left out any gratitude to J.K. Rowling for writing the character in the first place. So, what an ungrateful, horrible woman.
Uh, well, it is strange. I agree. You cannot write out J.K. Rowling from the Harry Potter story. At least if you do so, you'll look a bit absurd. And of course, J.K. Rowling, to her credit, saying she's still going to speak out about what she believes, and she supports the trans community. She supports trans women and indeed trans men. She just says that she refuses to accept that someone who's a trans woman was always a woman. She says that they weren't born biologically male. And I'm afraid that is a kind of genetic proof, the truth. There's not much you can do about that, but that seems to be the nature of her crime. And she has tweeted, rather sadly, really, that she could now wallpaper her entire house with the number of death threats she's had for what they say is a controversial stance. I can't for the life of me work out why it's controversial. But there you are. Let's move on. Your feelings about the Brit Awards, Kelly J. They've got rid of the best male and best female categories. They've made it all gender neutral, so there'll be fewer awards. It'll be far more joyless. And I fear that other awards ceremonies will follow suit. That Best Actor and Best Actress at the Oscars will probably die a death. I mean, as I say, it's joyless. It's sad. Why are they doing this? What are your feelings?
Well, I have mixed feelings about this. I think the Grammys did it quite some time ago, and it didn't really have a huge impact on the sex split of the winners. And if the Brits had done it on that basis, if they'd said, actually, women are doing so well, we've got Rihanna, Beyonce, Adele, these incredible women, and therefore, because of that, we feel it's time to get rid of the categories, I think that was great. But they're not doing it for that. They're doing it for the opposite reason, which is we're going to pretend there's no such thing as biological sex because some of the people we want to nominate also don't think there's anything as biological sex. So I feel that's an issue. I also do wonder whether through lockdown we've had a little bit of we've been turned off to the whole glitz and glamour of Hollywood and superstardom. And we've seen these people as at times rather desperately seeking the spotlight. And I kind of feel like we're a bit seeing Oz behind the curtain with some of the Hollywood glitz and glamour.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Kellie Jay, I've been to so many showbiz awards ceremonies. If they cancelled every single one and we never had another one again ever, it would be fine by me. But let's now move on to the most serious side of our, shall we say, our trans special. A doctor a psychiatrist who used to work at the Tavistock Clinic for trans kids says that he's very worried about the criteria they employ in order to decide that a little girl or a little boy may be in the wrong body. And he says, his name is Dr. David Bell, consultant psychiatrist who worked at the Tavistock and Portman NHS Trust. He says that basically this gender service believes that any little girl who says that she doesn't like pink ribbons and dollies is automatically, someone who doesn't want to be a girl. And he says the bar is set far too low for that sort of thing, and he worries that kids are being kind of doomed, if you like, to a beta blocking, puberty blocking future, when actually all it is then, unusual little girls who don't like dollies. It doesn't mean to say they want to be men.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of meeting Dr. David Bell, and his expertise in that field is equal to his compassion for the children that he's encountered. We had Standing for Women hosted a talk at the House of Lords in 2018 called First Do No Harm, we had experts in the field that talked about the harm of puberty blockers. And some of the stories that were raised in that meeting, sometimes parents were homophobic and they feared that their children were going to grow up to be homosexual. These kids were sometimes just getting 1 or 2 counselling sessions before they were put on the path. And puberty blockers, you often hear that they're really quite harmless and they're just a pause and you can resume puberty, which is completely nonsensical and has no data to support it. But what puberty blockers means that you will never, ever have sexual function as an adult. No matter what hormones they give you later, if you miss that puberty, and then say you're a girl and then you take testosterone at 18, you won't replace the things that your puberty didn't give you. It just doesn't happen. And so it really is rather frightening that we would do this to any child, irrespective of how many counselling sessions they had. I don't think you can ever be 100% certain that taking a child's sexual function and fertility away is a good solution to anything.
Yes, Dr. Bell says that the Gender Identity Development Service, which is what they do at the Tavistock, is not fit for purpose. The Tavistock Clinic, of course, is the only NHS clinic for potentially trans kids. I suppose the fear is that because it's there to help trans kids, it's always on the lookout for trans kids and is rather too enthusiastic to define kids as trans before they necessarily are. Kid comes in, girl comes in, say, I don't like dollies, trans. Do you see what I'm saying?
100%. I mean, this is what they're also teaching in schools, that really you do have a choice. When my kids were growing up, and the oldest is only 20, the youngest is 13, but we sort of said it doesn't matter what your sex is, you can like whatever you like. Whereas now it seems to say, well, if you like that, then your sex is obviously this. It just seems such a weird way round to try and fit a body to likes and dislikes and sort of personality rather than the other way round.